I hear you do some impressions. We can get back to the Hangouts later, but you do some impressions. You have a girlfriend who might have a favorite impression of yours that you want to admit to, or a favorite line. See?
I don't know if she. What did she disclose to you?
I don't know. She usually just laughs at everything you do, right? I could be wrong.
Is there any reason she laughs at it all? Or?
I have no idea. I mean, I believe she thinks that your chipmunk voice is pretty hot. It turns her on, but I'm only speculating here. Only a speculation.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what you're talking about.
I have no idea what I'm talking about. Not at all. Hey, were you in the Squeakquel with like an extra in the Squeakquel, or?
I once again have no idea what you're talking about.
Tom Brokaw as a chipmunk. That's awesome.
Good evening, Tom Brokaw here with the ambition hour.
Hey, while we got you in your normal voice as a chipmunk, a lot of people in the chat room want to get on to Steve Jobs, and I don't mean in a sexual way, because let's be honest, the man is dead. But even so, I didn't mean to belittle him. He was a genius. But Raleigh, Christopher want to know about Jobs. They want to know what's going on. Mike Stinger had a question about what are your thoughts on Apple now that Steve Jobs is gone? Will it continue to excel under new leadership? And now he's really gone, but he was gone for 6 weeks. But yeah, and Mike Stinger of Ohio. So talk about Steve Jobs. Talk about what I find fascinating is that Apple had this press conference a little different than they normally do, kind of along the lines of a F8 or a Facebook. And I didn't really watch it, but you know, they really were everyone thought they were launching the iPhone 5. Everyone's like, oh, the iPhone 5 is coming out. Finally. They mentioned a 4S way back when, but they said, no, we're going to hold off on a 4S. We're not going to be like Windows. We're going to go right to the 5. But a lot of people were disappointed, I think, that the 4S came out. And it turns out a day later, Steve Jobs dies. And bada bing, bada boom. An apology from Robert Scoble for bashing Apple, because a lot of people bashed Apple saying, what was that? That was nothing. But it turns out Apple had to stall, and they were kind of, that conference was almost like a tribute to Steve Jobs. I don't know if you got to see it before he passed, but maybe that was what it was about. So what are your feelings about how Apple went about its business, how people responded, and do you think that, without a doubt, we'll be seeing more press conferences soon with a lot more that they were holding back on because it's just not ready?
Well, it is my understanding from my conversations with Scoble that there is a big partnership which is to be announced. I don't have any details that I can share on that. But I think the way that they handled...
Sorry,
I'm sorry?
I have a call.
Zoom tight.
It was a call.
I think the way that the launch, if you want to call it a launch, but the press event was handled was very well, considering the fact that everyone on stage, behind stage, and working that event has some very inside information on the deteriorating health of their former CEO. So, you know, just bravo to them for being able to put on a good show, keep everyone in good spirits. But one thing I do want to talk about is the underwhelming value of the new product. Something that Steve Jobs was quoted as saying, and this was in his obituary today on the New York Times, is people do not decide what they want. We decide what they want. And basically, speaking about consumers, that was a paraphrase. I didn't directly quote him. But basically, Steve's idea is he doesn't want to, his idea was that he did not want to have focus groups.
Right.
He did not want to consult with consumers. He wanted Apple to decide what consumers wanted. Now, without him there, I'm a little worried what's going to happen. I think there are a lot of people out there, a lot of technologists, a lot of people in the media that are worried what's going to happen now that he's not there and to provide that micromanagement in that direction. But you have to realize every single product that came out of the Apple machine, Steve Jobs had his hands in. He had a part in it. He would not let it go live until he knew that it was perfect. And he would not put anything on the market that he was not 100% confident about. Now, that being said, I think it's very important that when Apple brings us something that we clearly do not want. Now, the thing with Apple, when they bring us stuff, it's not what we were asking for, but we soon realize it's exactly what we wanted.
It's amazing how that happens,
Steve,
right?
He's very, very intuitive. But if they start pushing out crap, and we quickly realize that either it's not what we want or it's not enough, we need to voice the opinion and we need to react to it. So Robert apologizing, you know, I'm hoping that he was apologizing for the way that he said things, but I hope he's not apologizing for the release being underwhelming. Because if Apple starts underwhelming the consumer public, they're going to fail, and they are going to fail miserably.
probably to Android, basically.
Well, not just to talk about phone
Right.
or mobile operating system technology, but
For
just in
Google.
general.
Right. Google would be their main competition, I would say, overall.
Well, Google doesn't make hardware, and you've got to remember Apple's business model is
Microsoft.
making people use their software on their hardware.
Right. But
So, there's no direct competition,
right.
but they need to maintain the market share and they need to maintain the momentum.
Bobby Joe, this is from Matt Musgrave. Hey, Matt Musgrave, thanks for joining us. He said underwhelming. He said they doubled the graphics, the capacity, the camera, and a little WTF. And I think what Peter's saying is not what they've done to this point, or not even talking about. Underwhelming as far as the iPhone 4S. I think the iPhone 4S is cool, but I think that the difference between the iPhone 4S and the iPhone 4 doesn't seem as, I guess, monumentous, if that's the word. Monumental, I mean. Is that kind of what you're
Right.
saying? Like, because he's saying that the doubling of, sure, the phone's faster, and it's like Windows and all these other things. They get faster and faster, and they have more memory and more graphics, and the camera's better, but it's not necessarily anything new. Like, there's not, I know they have the voice command, which doesn't feel too new. They have, they have the text messaging system, which doesn't feel new at all. It doesn't really feel like there's something new.
Yeah, and Matt Musgrave, to you, what I offer is the difference between the launch of the iPad and the difference between that and the launch of the iPad 2. The iPad was incredible. It created a renaissance of tablet computing. Microsoft had tried it tons and tons of times. They had Toshiba on board, they had Compaq on board. Those things were everywhere when I was in college, and it was basically a notebook computer where you flipped the screen around and folded it on top of the keyboard. But Apple figured out that they wanted something small that we could all carry around and have like this. It was just this whole new interface. But the difference between the iPad and the iPad 2 is you have to remember, the iPad did not have a camera.
Right.
And it certainly did not have a front-facing camera. And it was 33% thicker than this is, or twice as thick as this almost. And what they did by increasing the speed, adding those two cameras, and changing the way it feels in your hand and the capabilities of it, that really, really gave a resurgence to it. Now, by increasing the specifications of something, now, if they came out with the iPad 3, and instead of a 5-megapixel camera, it had a 8-megapixel camera, I would expect that the next year when they released it, but I wouldn't expect that to be the iPad 3. I would expect that to be the second generation iPad 2. You got to remember how they treated iPods. They came out in generations. They didn't come out as the brand new iPod each time. Each year they made improvements and called it the next generation of iPod, but they didn't make this big commotion that they made for the iPhone 4S. And I think that's why people were left underwhelmed.
So do you think that when the iPhone 5 comes out, people are going to be kind of like too little, too late sort of attitude, or they'll still be like, oh yeah, it's the iPhone 5, even though I bought a 4 or a 4S, I'm going to spend more money and buy a 5 now? I mean, do you think that that's...
Well, that's another interesting question, Matthew, and I think what's going to be important is that the iPhone 5 has a groundbreaking feature, something different that the other ones do not have.
Right.
One of the things I was trying to figure out is why you would want 1080p recording on something that has a lens the size of a 1/4 inch and an image sensor that I don't even know is how small. I don't see how that
is
relevant. I don't see how that's proficient
Right.
in any way. But the next iPhone needs to have something absolutely monumental. I don't know what that technology is. It's hard to say. If I already knew what it was, it'd be something another device is capable of. But they're going to have to come out with a way where it either has a native app that totally controls your home, all your, all the electricity,
All your
security
apps,
system. I know they're
too.
individual apps, but something where, one of the things I heard talked about on Twit last night, I was talking to Eric Lanigan last night on Twit, twit.tv if you ever check that out.
Leo, yeah.
But one of the things we talked about was unification. One of the problems is I'm talking to you right now in a Windows environment. This is my full-blown operating system. Jeffrey Powers talked about this. This is one of the big things Jeffrey Powers harped on. And I think he was actually talking to you maybe in Hangout Conversations.
Yes.
But he said the same thing, is I have Android on my phone,
Right.
I have iOS on my iPad, and I have Windows 7 on my PC. They're 3 different environments, and they're cluttered. They're cluttered. So until we can have the same environment and the same experience on all the devices, and maybe that's what the next iPhone's going to offer, where I put my phone next to my computer and everything that was on my phone is on my computer.
Right.
It just needs to be unified.
It's the iTunes thing too, and I know now they're going to have the new one's going to be, you're going to be able to use the cloud, you're going to be able to do Wi-Fi or whatever it is. But like I know that I have an iPhone 4, I plug it into iTunes, it syncs, it updates, it charges, whatever, and that's how I do it, and that's the way I know, and that's a pain in the butt, but it is what it is. I think what you're saying makes sense, being simpler, being more organized, but people really, without all that, people want to see a feature that's something they've never seen before, like you said. They want to see something new, something that'll really be blowing them away, and I don't necessarily think it's any of that. But we'll see. We'll see what'll happen. And the voice command thing doesn't seem like it's anything new, and as we know, the voice command doesn't work that well. We do have some more questions along this subject. Let's see. I want to get into a couple other things. Expectations are too high for a new 1,000 times better in years' time. I'm not sure what Matt Musgrave is saying.
No, I understand what he's saying. He's saying that the expectations for Apple are too high. And Steve Jobs is guilty of that. And maybe it was a great time for him to exit stage left and say, whoa, we've propelled and we've gained this much ground. But, I mean, anybody that knows anything about calculus is when you get up to that curve, you're never going to touch. It's always going to be going up. But the thing is, it's not necessarily making it 1,000 times better. Yeah. But it has to include
at least one,
a new innovation, but it has to be some sort of physical, tangible experience.
Yeah.
The voice thing, it's an improvement upon what Google's already been doing.
Right.
I had a coworker at work that said, "Did you see that? That's so cool that you can talk to your phone." And I immediately whipped out my Samsung Android phone, and I started talking and saying, "Phone number for Chinese takeout near Hermitage." And it said, "Do you want to use Skype or the phone to call it?" And they were floored. They're like, "Oh my God, you can already do that?" Yeah, it's not that new.
You harp on another point I want to touch on, that a lot of people, when it comes to technology and even social media, like, people don't know. They just don't know. I mean, most people don't know what Google Plus is. They don't know what G Plus is. Like, when they see it, it could be a month old, it could be a year old, it could be whatever. You know, people are like, what? When Facebook finally got people over from MySpace, they were like, it was 2008 almost. It was already 4 years. I know that's partly because of the college ideas, but the point is that a lot of people don't know about any of this stuff. People don't even know what a Hangout is. They don't know this exists. People know what YouTube is, and they use that, and hopefully using YouTube, people will find out more about Google Plus and Hangouts. But you know, we've hung out with celebrities, non-celebrities, real people. You know, we've had Hangouts with people like Chris Pirillo and some people with Scoble, Google people. We Sammy Hagar formerly of Van Halen had a Hangout. Rose McGowan, David Spade. I don't know if he had a Hangout yet, but Chris Tucker had a little one. You know, and you know, it's fascinating to see, and so many people don't know about it. It's kind of odds. People just don't keep up with it. So you can go. I guarantee, do this experiment at home. Next time you're in Walmart, hopefully you don't shop there, whatever, or you're in your local store. Go up to whoever it is. If it's a young kid, or chances are even a young kid, even if someone our age, say, "Hey, do you know what G Plus is? Do you know what Google Plus is? Do you know what a Hangout is?" I guarantee you, most of them will say no, or maybe. But nobody will say, "Oh yeah, I use that. I know what it is." They might even say, "I signed up for it," but they still don't really know what it is. Is what I think. I don't know, Peter.
Well, Matt, I just want to talk about a few things.
Okay.
First of all, since doing Google Hangouts, I've met 2 people in real life. Cool. I plan on meeting a third. Somebody I started a great business relationship with, Michael Nast.
Plus Michael Nast.
Another person, I'm working on a very creative project with Jamie Meredith, who's local in Nashville. I've also had the opportunity to have a one-on-one interview on YouTube Live with Will.i.am from the Black Eyed Peas.
Yes,
for 11
talk
and a
about
half
that.
minutes.
Yes.
And let me just go down the list. And then after the show, I got to interview him again in a full hangout. I've also appeared on the NBC affiliate in Columbia, Missouri. I had 2 journalism students there interview me from a live hangout while I was actually at the scene of breaking news at Starbucks on International Coffee Day. You know, just the opportunities. I've been on Twit Live, on Twit.tv with Eric Lanigan, all of that thanks to the people that I've met here. You know, I've been on YouTube Live with Michael Mozart. Just the
Hangout
list of people.
conversations.
I've talked to Robert Scoble, Trey Ratcliffe. I mean, you can just go down the list of people. And, you know, one of the people that I hope to have the chance to talk to soon is Daria Musk. I owe her a huge apology.
I heard about
for
that. Hopefully we will.
Something my conversation with Will.i.am, but, you know, just the opportunities that have presented themselves from this are absolutely amazing. I'm so thankful.
Yeah, I totally agree. And Daria Musk actually, hopefully we'll get that apology happening. I'll see what I can do for you. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And we've done videos ourselves. Me and you have done videos. We've done some Hangouts, and we've done 3 to be off the top of my head I could think of. We've done 3, and the very first one we did together, I believe, was it Windows 8 or was it Robert Del Rose? Which one was first? Windows?
I believe it may have been Windows.
Windows.
And
Okay.
Maximilian Majeski
Yes.
had just downloaded a copy of Windows 8 Developer Preview. And we were actually all in a Hangout together, and he said, "Hey guys, do you mind if I stream this and show you guys, and we'll take a look around?" I asked him if he minded if I recorded. So we recorded that video. I posted it to my YouTube account, and within 3 days, it had over 15,000 views. Now, Maximilian got a little upset because I did call it the Windows 8 public beta, and he said, "No, it's not that. It's a developer preview." And I said, "Maximilian, if I call it the developer preview, nobody's going to watch it. We need to call it the public beta."
Gotta spice it up.
So we were able to get 15,000 views out of it, and you know I got 67 subscribers because of that, and so I owe him huge thanks for sharing that with us. It was such a fun experience. It's amazing. It's limitless what you can do with these.
Yeah, it was a great experience, and it was cool to see Windows 8 live in front of us, and we all, I don't know who else was in there offhand, but I know that we had a lot of questions. We saw the apps, we saw the games, and then it was amazing what happened on YouTube with the explosion of numbers. You know, a lot of people interested in Windows 8, and I don't think a lot of people are doing that kind of thing. The fact that we could be, Maximilian is actually in Germany. I'm in New York, Peter is in Nashville, and people are all over the place, and we're all talking to each other at the same time. No longer will you have to go to someone's studio to be on somebody's show. And that was always the case, but now with a Hangout, there's so much more you can see and do. Because a lot of these internet shows are in a studio. People come into the studio and they broadcast from that studio. They don't use, some people use Skype, but even Skype doesn't have this kind of cool technology where we could have multiple people in, which we'll have on Conversations Plus coming up shortly. One of the other great Hangouts we did was right after this show, we had a Conversations Plus, and after that, we had an epic Hangout where you dropped in, Michael Mozart dropped in, a lot of people dropped in, and an artist named Robert Del Rose of Boston, or from Massachusetts. He dropped in.
Indeed, we did.
And that was
we
pretty
had
fun.
a great conversation with Robert Del Rose, and he has some very interesting opinions, and he has a friend that is afflicted with terminal illness, and he was talking about traveling to the state of Nevada and how they won't be able to do that because there's no way to transport medical marijuana over there. So a great interview and piece we did that's available on my YouTube channel, micropatrol.com, or youtube.com/micropatroltv.
Definitely, yeah. And Robert Del Rose was such a character. He had an accent, and he had the Massachusetts going.
But he was a good sport.
He was a good guy,
he was
yeah.
a good sport the whole way through. That's what's great.
And you meet all
Because
kinds
the people
of
you meet on
characters.
here are genuine, you know.
Who said that? I agree. Also, one of the greatest Hangouts, this must be probably the best Hangout I've been a part of, is the Crispin Glover experience. So what happened?
Oh my God.
The Crispin
Oh my
Glover
God.
experience. That must be. If you
Oh
haven't
my
seen this,
God.
it's on Micropatrol TV. It's there.
It is.
It was hilarious.
It is.
For the longest time, there's a man named Plus Robert McGee who tried to be Robert McGee for a long time, but he's really Crispin Glover, maybe. And it was the funniest hangout because this man, this boy, whatever you want to call him, sounds like Crispin Glover. His voice is Crispin Glover. And
Robert McGee.
Robert McGee.
Yep.
Circle him.
Circle him.
He hangs out, and so we decided, you know what? I was G-talking with Peter. I said, let's do this. It's a Crispin Glover hangout, and it just happened. People were coming in. Michael Mozart was confused or tricked, talking about his Back to the Future toys, until there was some trivia involved where Crispin was a little confused. Although
Right.
Crispin does do a
Did
lot.
a good job.
He did a pretty good job. So it was a lot of fun, and I believe, that's not getting the attention it deserves like Windows 8 is, but hopefully after this show, and it'll get more attention. But yeah, it was a lot of fun,
Most certainly, yeah.
and now he has a reputation. What were your memories of that hangout? Or that experience?
It was just so funny. The funniest part was Michael Mozart at the end. Michael Mozart is very popular on YouTube. He's a YouTube
NG+.
partner with over 400,000 subscribers. and he's got a
Wait, how
great
many?
following here
How
on
many
Google
subscribers? I
Plus.
didn't hear you. How
Over
many?
400,000.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. That's a
Can you
lot.
see? Who said that? So, so we had him in the Hangout, and we had him dead on confused that Crispin Glover was there in a pseudonym, and we were talking to him. And if you know anything about Mosey, you know that for the last 2 months he has been so freaking excited
Ow!
about Back to the Future, the new boots, and he had his hoverboard, and this and that, and great Scott, and he'll 19 gigawatts or whatever it is.
1.25,
You know,
21, yeah.
1.25 gigawatts,
Yeah,
whatever
you're
it
good.
is.
You're close. What the heck is a
And I
gigawatt?
know the guy drives a DeLorean, but anyway, the great thing was that we had him duped for
Totally.
20 minutes. Now, he claims after the first 5 minutes he got suspicious. Within
Lies.
10 minutes he started interviewing. But the last 10 minutes of the Hangout, he does nothing but defend himself for claiming that the whole time he knew it was a ruse. So that was just great that we
was
were able
epic.
to trick one of the greatest people here on Google Plus and
Yeah.
YouTube.
Michael Mozart, we do like you. We do love you. We joke.
We love you to
kid.
death, Michael, and we really, really, really do appreciate the insight you're giving us from Occupy Wall Street right now. We hope that you
You stay
continue exercising your journalism and sharing those videos with you. We are watching them. We are watching them. Out of your hundreds of thousands of views, some of them are coming from us.
Hey, you mentioned will.i.am, and I want to talk about that real quick. I didn't really get to. I don't know what the status of the interview is. You might still be working on it. will.i.am, if you don't know, is one of the Black Eyed Peas. He's part of that, and he is a vital member here on Google Plus as far as getting involved with Google and live hangouts. And they did a Central Park concert. So give us some insight. That must have been interesting. I've watched some of the live hangout, but not the. I didn't get to see the interview. That was live streaming when you did it, right?
Yeah, the funny thing about the interview is here's how it happened. I came home from work. I knew nothing about the concert, nothing that was going on. I remember seeing it in a stream somewhere a couple days ago. But I saw the Hangout pop up, and I said, hey, I'll try to get in here. So the first time I couldn't, tried a few minutes later, I got in, and there were about 8 people in there. will.i.am was on stage rehearsing, and then the producer came and sat down in front of the curtain where the staging area was, and everybody fell out of the Hangout except for this guy wearing a wife beater, the Google connection, which was recording the live Hangout, and the stage manager. And then there was another camera on stage. So then out of nowhere, will.i.am comes and sits down, and he's like, yo, what's up? And the guy that was with me, the guy wearing the wife beater, he would not say anything. He's typing in the chat. He's like, you got this, man. Keep it. And, so I'm trying to engage will.i.am. I just gotten home from work. I don't know a whole lot about
You didn't even
will.i.am.
have a
I
beer
love
yet.
Black Eyed Peas. But I'm sitting there winging it the whole time. My girlfriend's making fun of me because I was trying to sound apparently ethnic while I was talking to him.
Yo, what's
But,
up, Holmes?
I'm kind of a chameleon. I've lived all over the U.S., so anywhere I live, I always try to talk like the people I'm around. Like, if I was up in New York, I'd probably, be dropping a little bit of this and that. You don't know what would happen if I was up there.
You're a character.
But, I'm a little bit of a character. What can I say?
And you have character.
Well, I don't know about that.
Maybe.
That might be demeaning
That's a
to some
rumor.
people. But anyway, so, that was a lot of fun because the guy from Google was typing in the chat, hey, you're doing a great job. Keep asking questions. And apparently Google thought that I was doing well, so they locked it out so nobody else could join.
Yeah.
So then
Nice.
I have this doofus sitting in there that's like, cool, bro. He said that one time. That was all he said out of 11 minutes.
So
and
what did
15
will.i.am
seconds.
give you? Did he give you some? Should we have to wait? Is it you're working on the video? It's already out. What's the status?
Well, some people have been putting the video out. There's another YouTuber that put the video out. We can put a link to that. But I have the tail end interview, which was the interview that I did prepare for after the Hangout with the concert, where in front of the stage of 8 other people in the Hangout, I was able to ask them a lot of questions. And the other members of the Hangout participated. That's a lot more fun than the one-on-one where I didn't even know how I got there. So.
Awesome. Hey, real quick, people want a closer look at the Occupy Hangouts sign. They're
Yes,
enjoying
this is,
it.
you
That's
can buy
awesome.
these from thinkgeek.com,
Wow.
and everybody
like-
needs one.
Cool. There you go. Occupy Hangouts. Sweet.
Yeah.
Live from Nashville. Live. Very cool. Hey, that brings me to another audience question. We met Jason Garland last night, and Jason Garland wanted to know how you decided to buy all that equipment and have you been collecting it? What are your intentions? I'm kind of paraphrasing right now, Jason Garland, but why did you decide to do a video podcast? Like, where did that, just from inspiration, like, where did that come from? He wants to know.
Well, yeah, I had studied journalism and electronic media at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. I'd always been a big fan of participating in news media. I started at a very young age interacting with ZDTV, later became a Interact volunteer with Tech TV before the Comcast buyout. And, I ended up landing a job in a different industry, and this has always been my passion. So what I saw Leo Laporte was doing with Twit, I really got interested in kind of emulating what he was doing. So I'm trying to find a unique way right now to do what he's doing, maybe not on the level of live, but just be able to do that type of viral journalism from the comfort of my own home studio. I'm not going to have the $1.7 million facility he does.
Right.
So if you go to the website micropatrol.com and click on studio and equipment, you will find out all the equipment I use here. Cheapest stuff I could find.
Yeah, and you have a lot of great equipment, and you do a lot of good value. And you have a nice setup. I don't know if you feel like swinging over the camera, if that'll mess you up. You don't have to, but I know you have a nice mic on the other side, and which if you guys have seen the promos, you have like a little table over there or something. It was cool.
And I'll switch microphones. You can hear it's a completely different type of sound using a condenser. But yeah, I can swing the camera around.
Cool. This is Peter McDermott. Set up nice little therapist couch over there.
So that's the Hangout couch, and we actually have cameras positioned, so I can have up to 2 guests on a couch.
Cool.
And then right over here is the other desk, which is also set up with cameras. And then back behind there is the chroma screen. I've kind of got it pulled up over the closet doors there.
Right.
And then there's lots and lots of lighting all throughout here. There's all sorts of lights. There's a hair light behind me. There's just all sorts of lights and cameras everywhere. And
you got a beautiful setup. Thank you. And you have a nice. It looks like a guitar there. You got a guitar? Is that a guitar?
I do. Yep.
Can you pop that baby up? Let's see that guitar.
No? Which one?
What you pick?
It's
no. All right. I just want you to do the next section with the guitar in your hands.
Probably
because
not amped up.
no, it's all right. Oh, you look like you're Marty. Speaking of Back to the Future, it's just too damn loud. Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, it's time for a G4. This is our rapid series fire. G4 is 4 quick questions. Here we go. Number 1, no correct answer, tie or no tie?
tie.
That is correct. Number 2, which movie do you prefer, Office Space or Network?
I've never heard of Network
Office Space or Broadcast News?
Office Space.
Office Space for the win. Better source of news, Jon Stewart or anything else?
Jon Stewart.
That is correct. Would you public hangout, or would you rather have a cool person's hangout? Loaded question.
I'd like to start with the cool people and then open it up to the public once we've established ourselves.
That is correct.